Project Management Insights, providing project managers with professional development in the interpersonal skills areas of leadership, team building, and communication. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Project Management Insights. Stakeholder relationships, they're never easy, are they? Sometimes I found they can be the most frustrating part of my work as a project manager because you're never quite sure exactly what's going to happen with them. So today I want to look at 3 ways to manage your stakeholder relationships. The first thing to do is to be clear on their involvement. Now, for me, what I like to do is to develop a RACI matrix, and I'm going to run through it just in case you haven't heard of one or are not aware of what a RACI, R-A-C-I matrix is. It's a way of understanding each of your stakeholders or stakeholder groups and then how they need to be involved in or engaged in your project. The acronym RACI actually stands for, the R stands for responsible, the A is accountable, the C is concerned, and the I is informed. Now, for me, what happens when I go and understand who all my stakeholders are and then fit them into the groups here about responsible, accountable, concerned, and informed, it helps me then work out the best ways for me to engage my stakeholders. Because if I understand how much information they need or how involved they need to be in my project, it then helps me decide whether I just need to drop, a weekly bullet point update email, whether they're people that I need to be having or should be having meetings with, or people that I really need to engage and have involved in the decision making for the project, as an example. And so it makes it easier then to understand each of my stakeholders and the level of involvement that they need on my project. So this RACI matrix really helps. Now you'll find that if you go online and do a Google search, there will be a number of RACI matrix templates that you can download. So if you haven't used one, I would highly recommend going and having a look at one and perhaps having a go at capturing your stakeholders and fitting them into the categories responsible, accountable, concerned, and informed, and then decide, like that might help you decide then how much you engage with them and how you interact with them on your project. Now, the next important thing to do in order to manage your stakeholders is to understand how they want to be engaged and deliver that. Notice I said how they want to be engaged. This is a very different thing to me determining how I'm going to deliver information to these stakeholders. Because ultimately, these stakeholders will have wants. They will want to know, certain people will want to know things at a certain level. There might be people on your project that are concerned, and yet a high-level email is enough for them. And yet other people that are concerned will want to have a one-on-one meeting so that they can question you, so that they can really feel like they do understand exactly what's going on and how it's going to affect them or their business area. So this is a really important thing to do, to go and visit each of your stakeholders or stakeholder groups. And I would suggest stakeholders because oftentimes the stakeholders might represent a group, and so go and talk to them individually and talk to them about how they want to be engaged on your project. Because the stronger your relationship with these people and the more that it's set up for them, ultimately this is not about you, this is about getting their support for your project. And so if you go and ask them what they want, they are going to be more likely to want to support your project and to support your project during the life journey of it. Whereas if you don't ask them what they want and you just deliver things that are not meeting their needs, back to an earlier podcast from a little while ago where I was talking about unhappy stakeholders. Now, of course, that podcast talked about external stakeholders, and I did mention at the end that it was no different for internal stakeholders. They have wants, they have expectations, they have assumptions, and it's really important that you consider those. If you don't, it's at your own peril. Which brings me, I guess, to the last point of the best way to manage your stakeholder relationships, and that is to remember that these people are individuals. They are individuals with wants, needs, expectations, and assumptions. And so the best thing that you can do is to have the conversation, build the relationship with them in order to have the conversation so that you understand what it is they think they need. Notice I said think they need. You might find that they tell you they have a need for something which sounds quite outrageous or not possible in terms of delivering your reporting or a messaging to them. Give it a go, deliver it, because what you might find is what they think they need isn't really what they need. I've had this happen so many times. My stakeholders have been so adamant that they've had a need. I've delivered that need, and then it's not till I deliver the need that they suddenly realize, well, you know what, that's not actually what I want. What I really want is this, and it's a pared back version of that need. And so, because what I've found is needs are more about life or death type things, whereas wants are the things that keep us happy, make us joyful and comfortable and okay. And so you want to get to their wants. What is it that they want? What do they want in order to be okay and feel comfortable supporting you with your project? Now, the wants, again, they might be able to articulate them, and then again, they might not. So it is about having an ongoing relationship with them and asking them if the material that you are delivering to them or the way that you are engaging them is working for them. Keep the relationship going. Don't just have that conversation at the start and then forget about them. This is about keeping your stakeholders engaged for the whole journey of your project as much as possible. Now remember those expectations and assumptions. They're not necessarily going to speak them out loud unless you ask them about them. So be upfront and ask them what their expectations and assumptions are. By getting it clear, you will have a better understanding of what it is that they're expecting and assuming that you are going to do, how you are going to engage with them, what you are going to deliver. This is all about creating clarity. Your relationship, the way you build your relationship is to build clarity. Clarity between the two of you and the way that you are going to interact with each other for the life of your project. This relationship, each relationship is very important. And so it's about building the relationship, building the trust, building the sense of common purpose, which is basically what you're after, because you want their support for your project so that if you need their assistance at any time, they're there. You want them to be comfortable and happy with the outcomes and effects of your project so that the change management runs more smoothly. There's a lot of reasons why you want to build these strong relationships with your stakeholders. So it's really important to manage your stakeholder relationships as if they were your own personal relationship. Don't do things with your stakeholders that you wouldn't do in your own personal relationships. It doesn't work. And maybe this is about learning to have different relationships. Maybe your personal relationships don't work, and so you might need to learn a different way of engaging and working with people in a relationship so that you build a strong relationship that's supportive for both of you, them and you, and of course ultimately your project, because what you do want is supportive and people that are along for the ride with you, stakeholders. All right, so hopefully these 3 tips of being clear on their involvement, use your RACI matrix, understand how they want to be engaged and deliver that, and remember they are individuals with needs, wants, expectations, and assumptions will help you to manage your stakeholder relationships. Enjoy your week in project management world. Don't work too hard. Take the stress off. Remember the stress tips that I gave you in the previous episode. If you can't remember them, go back and listen to the episode again. And I will talk to you next week for another episode of Project Management Insights. Thank you for listening to this Project Management Insights podcast. Be sure to visit projectmanagementinsight.com and sign up for our monthly newsletter or to receive updates on upcoming training.